Hello, everyone. It's time once again for
Drunken Housewife Reviews.
I am your host and husband, Ian Kennedy.
I'm the Drunken Housewife Sarah Kennedy.
And today we are going to be reviewing the movie Things Seen and Heard on Netflix,
Which is based on
the novel by Elizabeth Brundage called All Things Cease to Appear. And before we get started, you can catch us on Anchor and Spotify. If you just do a search for this Drunken Housewife Review, and be sure to give us a follow on that. And then we'll also be posting this to YouTube along with pictures of people that we're talking about and such. And be sure to like and subscribe on Drunken Housewife Review on YouTube.
because I need the attention, people.
So let's see here. Yeah, it was written, and it says written and directed by Sherry Springer Berman and Robert Polcini, which definitely has a
Female, strong vibe.
exactly
Strong female vibe. That's what I meant to say.
strong female vibe. It definitely does has, and so being the kind of a typical, not really seeing things, male, I had to watch it a second time to pick up on all those little things, and also discuss with my wife these little things about the female perspective that I would not have picked up on. She's like, oh yeah, this, and this. I'm like, oh, now that makes sense.
Because, he's a guy. We love him, but,
So there you go.
So should I read the basic plot line?
Yes, let's go to the official IMDb.
Official
plot.
IMBD. We are not sponsored by IMBD. So the plot is an artist relocates to the Hudson Valley and begins to suspect that her marriage has a sinister darkness, one that rivals her new home's history. Dun dun dun.
It is very subtle and things that you pick up. I do recommend watching it a second time to miss all the little subtleties.
To catch all those subtleties that you missed.
Exactly.
Which one of us is drunk?
I would say you.
Okay. But it's not really a horror movie.
No,
per se.
it's more of a thriller.
I would say like
Psychological
thriller with a supernatural twist.
I would say that's fair.
Is that fair?
Yes.
Okay.
And what's funny about that too is that my wife is a little more on the supernatural informational side than I am, so she picked up a few more things than I did, and then I kind of put some things together after I was informed.
I'm just glad they didn't pull out a Ouija board. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Going back. So, in this movie, Catherine Claire and her husband George moved to this little town because he's gotten a job as a professor at a university teaching art theory, I think, or something like that. And she is an artist in her own right. And they have a brief shot where it's like, I guess she's like an art restorer, like she works at restoration, because it looked like she's cleaning a painting. But we find out that Claire has issues. She's anorexic, bulimic.
Because she is.
I'd say she's kind of both.
Well, she took a bite and then threw up that.
Yeah,
bite.
because she's not a big eater to begin with, and then what she does, she doesn't really do the binge and purge, but what she does eat, she throws up. So I think it's more anorexia. Now, this movie takes place in 1980.
1980.
1980.
Yes.
Okay.
Because it's supposed to be the spring where he gets the job, and then fall where he starts the job, and then the beginning of winter when things come to an abrupt end.
Mm-hmm. So, and they have a young daughter, and we find out that Claire's a good little Catholic girl, got pregnant with the daughter, so George was kind of forced to marry her.
Yes,
because that thing still happened in 1980.
Yes.
So, pardon me, I'm eating popcorn because what else do you eat when you watch a movie? But popcorn.
Because technically they were still, quote, living in sin.
Yeah.
And you find that out when she talks to the mom about her problems that arise in the show, and her mom's is like, well, did you pray about it getting right with Mary? It's like, oh, okay, thanks, Mom.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So let's go over the cast real quick.
Sure. Hit it.
So Catherine is played by Amanda, is it pronounced Seyfried?
I believe so.
Okay. Amanda, if I'm mispronouncing your name, I apologize. I really do. George is played by James Norton.
Which I've not seen him in anything else, as far as like anything that I would remember seeing him in. But he was really good in this.
He was really good in it. And some props, F. Murray Abraham is in it.
And he hasn't done anything for a while. And
I love F. Murray Abraham. He is awesome. He's an awesome actor, awesome person. Karen Allen is in it as the real estate agent.
Yes.
That sells them the home. And her husband, interestingly
enough,
is the sheriff of the town, played by Michael O'Keefe, who I think is very underrated.
Oh, see, I didn't know that.
And very adorable. So yeah, Michael O'Keefe. So
they have some decent names in this.
They have some decent names, in this that you haven't seen for a while. Well, except for Amanda. You
said she was in Mamma Mia?
She was in Mamma Mia and Mamma Mia, Here We Go Again, which is two of my favorite movies.
Well, see, being the typical guy, I did not watch it.
And Ian is not a big fan of Mamma Mia.
Not to say I'm against chick flicks. It's like I like well-made chick flicks. Not saying it wasn't a well-made chick flick per se.
Woo! Can he tap dance anymore around this subject?
But I'm not a big ABBA fan, and it just did not appeal to me.
Let's just say not his thing. Anyway, so yeah, they moved to this little town because he's got this job at this little college, which means she has to give up everything.
Because she was a city girl, as they say.
She's a city girl, so her job that she loved, her family, friends, everything, to move. And they buy a house that's out in the middle of freaking nowhere. So she doesn't even have, like, neighbors.
Not really.
Or anything like that. And you slowly discover that her husband is a controlling asshole.
Yes.
Major controlling asshole. And he gaslights her a lot.
Yeah, well, he gaslights everybody. That's like his specialty. He's actually very good at it.
Especially her, because he will throw in her face her struggles with anorexia.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, well, it's just because you're not eating.
Yes, exactly.
And, your mind's making up all this shit when she starts confronting him about stuff.
Exactly. When things aren't adding up, then she like asks him about it. It's like, oh, well, you're just not eating, and so you're just confused.
Because they're not there long when she's like, this house is haunted.
Yeah.
This house is freaking haunted. Now, I've got to say, it's not the typical haunted house.
It's not. It's very layered.
And not the typical, like, story. Because usually in stories, the wife is like, oh my God, this house is haunted, we have to leave. And the husband's like, no, we're fine, stay.
Exactly. So it's kind of sort of, I mean, he doesn't even really believe in the ghost, which is interesting.
Yeah.
He doesn't even believe it at all.
And she's the one that's like, this house is haunted. I'm going to figure out why, who, what's going on. She goes to the Historical Society to research the house and finds out some shit there that leads her to believe that it may be the wife of the first owner of the house, which we discover that this house has a very tragic past. Very, very tragic past. And so,
in fact, it's like the third generation of tragedy that's going to be happening in this house. And I think it's not really a typical movie as much as that it has the typical Hollywood ending feel, whatever, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
It's its own thing. I give it that.
You get... Okay. Let's not jump ahead. So, they move into this house. It needs a lot of work. And these two brothers approach them saying, hey, we grew up in the house. We're used to doing work around the house. Hire us as your handyman crew. And like the younger brother turns into a great babysitter for the daughter.
Mm-hmm.
the older is, you know, a great handyman, helping him fix it up, helping him paint, helping him do all this other stuff, helping the wife with some other stuff that we find out later.
Well, there are a few spoilers, sorry.
Yeah. Spoiler alert. We're gonna spoil shit. But the wife doesn't know, like, everything about this house.
No, as in the part of the controlling nature of the husband, he decided not to tell her everything.
He decided not to tell her everything. But they throw a party for, like, all of their neighbors and the faculty at the college. And the real estate agent that sold him the house, played by Karen Allen, nice to see her in something. Mm-hmm. She's like, oh, I'm so glad to see the brothers. I can't believe you got him back at the house considering everything that happened. And Catherine is like, what? Well, I told your husband the whole thing. And she's like, well, he didn't tell me shit. Tell me everything. And so we find out, we already know that the original owners, the husband killed the wife. He was very staunchly religious, and she was starting to explore more scientific and other, areas of the world. And he was like, no, religion. And they find a family Bible where her name's been crossed out and just the word damned is written in.
Exactly.
So that's our first clue that there's some stuff going on. But we come to find out that the boys, their parents died in the house. The father killed the mother and tried to kill the boys too, but somehow the boys survived.
Yes.
So, Catherine finds this out and confronts her husband. Why didn't you tell me about this? And he's like, because, you would freak out. And, and she's like, things are going on. He's like, well, it's because you don't eat. You're imagining things. Yeah. You don't eat, so your brain's, it's your food-deprived brain, I think is what he says.
And how it all relates to the house is that there's benevolent spirit, which is the female part of the house.
There's the benevolent female spirit, which at first she thinks is the original owner's wife,
but finds out no, it is not.
And then there's what is the name of the artist that they follow?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not exactly sure. Innes, I want to say.
Hang on.
We'd have to look that up as far as that. It all ties to this
this artist.
This artist.
Whose name that we can't remember.
We should have looked that up.
We should have looked that up because, obviously we're not prepared. But anyway, there's this one artist that his work and his beliefs come very into play.
Yes.
Google it and see if you can find out. And the head of the department that the husband the college that the husband teaches at, he's a follower of this artist's Fartline. Woo! And he and his friends.
Oh, I guess that is a real book too. It's called Heaven and Its Wonders: The World of Spirits and Hell by... Who's that by? By Emanuel Swedenborg.
Okay. So they're all followers of this guy's thought line, beliefs, and all that. So the head of the department is like, let me invite my friends in. We'll hold a seance. We'll figure this out. And she's like, yes, let's figure this out. Because the husband's like, it's not haunted. Shut up. It's fine. You're making shit up. So she's like, yes, let's hold this seance. So she sends a husband and daughter away to like his parents for the weekend. Yeah. And invites these people in to hold a seance. And that's when they find out that, there's this benevolent spirit that she believes is the wife from the first owners. But during the seance, like this darkness, like just this battling with this other spirit, not letting it come through, not letting it speak to them. And that's when they find out that there's two spirits, a good one and a bad one. A good witch and a bad witch. And you really start to see that, like, the husband was an ass to begin with.
Exactly.
You just never like the husband. You never really.
He did a really good job of being charismatic, yet somebody you would despise.
Exactly. There's just something that you're always like, yeah, this guy is no.
Kind of creepy, kind of slimy the whole time, but he's charming enough to fool people.
And he's good looking, and he's charming, so people want to like him. People want to, all this. But yeah, you begin to see that he's kind of being controlled by that dark spirit. And you hear him like saying, let me know you're here. Give me a sign that you're here. And that's when like this bird crashes through the bedroom window. And that's like one hell of a sign.
Oh yeah.
But the good spirit is like trying to help the wife, trying to help her out.
Yeah, as there's a war between the wife and the husband, there's a war between
the good and bad
spirits in the house, so it's all intertwined.
Yeah. So you get to, there's little questions all the way through about the husband. Because you find out he had a cousin that committed suicide.
Mm-hmm.
And he found the cousin's diaries and discovered he was gay. And so maybe that's why he committed suicide. Because this is 1980.
Yes.
And so he...
because they could ruin careers,
lives, the whole nine,
and a lot more pressure and whatnot. Like for say Freddie Mercury was in the closet and all that.
Yeah,
and he was famous.
In the 80s,
everybody thought his career would be over. Blah blah blah.
Yeah.
So it was a different time. Of course.
in the 80s, people had to stay in the closet just to save their lives, just to protect themselves.
Yeah, and unfortunately, there's still that going on today.
I'm not saying that we've really progressed that far,
but it really made sense where it ties to the story where if he did kill himself because he was gay, it would be totally understandable.
But then there's all these questions that start to arise over this family dinner that they have at Thanksgiving, where they say something about this cousin, he painted these beautiful seascape images and all of that. Well, they're the pictures that are hanging on the husband's wall at his office that he says he painted. Mm-hmm. And that's when it clicks for Catherine. She's like, nah.
Oh yeah, exactly. It's it's like step by step you see all his lies unraveling, and the more and more he becomes unhinged.
He takes his art class to the city to see this art exhibit, and he runs into an old professor, and that's where you find out some shit about the husband that's hinky, super hinky.
Exactly.
Not wanting to give away stuff. But then that old professor calls the head of the department of the college and is like, hey, here's what's going on.
Exactly.
And the head of the department confronts George about it, and it's like, we have to have a meeting about this, because basically, there's a no-win situation. He's going to lose his job.
Yeah, and that's when he really starts.
That's when the panic spiral starts.
Yeah,
and all of that, and he ends up going sailing with the head of the department. They're like,
which is F. Murray Abraham.
Which is F. Murray Abraham, played brilliantly, of course, because F. Murray Abraham does everything brilliant. But they're out on the ocean, and you're like, what's he gonna do? Because his entire world is
because he's trying his best to spin this around.
He's trying to spin it,
to kind of get him over to his side, but then he ultimately says, "I have to tell."
While they're on the ocean, F. Murray Abraham is like, "I don't think you understand. The outcome is set on what's going to happen. I just, wanted to give you the courtesy,
exactly,
of listening to you. But you're done." You're going to lose your job because, of what happened. And the next shot we see is George, dripping wet, walking to his car. And you're like, he just killed that guy. Which then raises the suspicion of, did his cousin really commit suicide?
Yes, because he talks about finding his diary, and that's how he found out he was gay.
Did he find the diary before he died or after he died?
Yeah.
Because he's stolen his paintings and pass them off as his own. Even Catherine thinks that he painted them.
Yeah, even Catherine didn't know that.
And has created this whole life around this artist persona.
Exactly. Yeah, basically to get out of real work.
Yeah,
more or less.
And the wife, like, they make friends with other faculty members, and the wife really clicks with one
of the other professors
who's female
and very strong female, and she sees right through the bullshit from the beginning.
Exactly.
And George does not like that because he likes everybody to just believe his bullshit and not call him on it.
Yeah, exactly.
As we all do to a certain degree, but
yeah. But yeah, she's like really calling his shit. I'm trying to find her name, but like things are messing up here. But anyway,
while you look that up here, here's the thing, kind of a true story behind the novel. This is from Elle magazine in Australia. The author Elizabeth Brundage spent time living in upstate New York, exactly like the Clare family. Taking to her website, Brundage revealed that after moving into an old house with her husband and young children, she soon, quote, discovered that we are not alone, unquote, after her 3- and 6-year-old daughters began describing ghosts who lived in the house, specifically 3 girls who died in a fire there. So I guess it'd be interesting to, if you like the movie, to look into the novel and the backstory behind it. Mm-hmm. So it's very interesting.
So
backtracking.
So here's George walking wet to his car, and Justine, played by, is it Ray or Rhea Seehorn?
I want to say Rhea.
Yeah. Justine, like, automatically is, like, seeing through George's bullshit. She knows there's something up with him. She knows, like, there's a phrase that Catherine says to Justine where George gets what George wants.
Exactly. George gets exactly what he wants.
And that's when Justine is like, her spidey senses. And she kind of starts, like, keeping a very close eye on George. Like, the field trip into the city, she goes along. And she overhears the conversation between him and his professor. And she's like, yeah. Then she sees him walking back to his car soaking wet. And she's like, huh? And that's when she kind of lets him know, look, I'm going to go to HR or somebody. I'm going to tell somebody what's going on, at least career-wise. And he ends up running her off the road thinking that he's killed her. Nah, she's in a coma. So he thinks that's taken care of. But then his wife walks in on him putting his soaking wet clothes into the washer. And he's like, well, I got sick. I got sick on him, so that's why I'm throwing him into the washer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's when she's like, well, and she's already done. She is checked out of this marriage. She is just like trying to plan her escape route. And she's like, well, then sleep on the couch.
Oh, what was funny too about the whole situation at the small town is that he has all his friends, and that's kind of like how he kept her kind of isolated. He had all his friends, and he was popular on campus, this, that way, and everything's fine. But then he was keeping her alone, trying to keep her away from anybody, like neighbors and stuff. Like when they tried to invite neighbors to the party, she's like, I don't know anybody. Yeah. You know everybody. I don't know anybody. I need friends, this, that, and the other. And he was controlling to that minute detail.
Yeah, because he was like, you could tell he didn't want to invite the neighbors. And she's like, I need to belong to this community. I need to have a place.
It's like, you brought me here, at least let me know people.
And after he runs Justine off the road, or no, before that, he was like, I don't want you to be friends with Justine. And then he's like, she's a closeted lesbian and she wants you. And like trying to come up with all these reasons why Catherine shouldn't be her friend. I mean, he's classically gaslighting and trying to separate her from everything so that he can have like this ultimate control. And, have like this idyllic life that he's, contrived. Mm-hmm. And which you find out that it's all right. And it's all shredding around him.
Exactly. So it's interesting to watch the breakdown in of this, because it's like even from the beginning, it's like things are just going to go wrong. It's like, and even and not a, like I said, not a classic Hollywood ending, in as much as
there's no happy
confrontation ending. And then
the wife triumphs and the whole
the
nine.
wife triumphs. Yeah, there's none of that.
There's none of that.
So
just gonna let you know right now, there's no happy ending, and I think
it works for this movie.
It works, but
but you didn't expect it.
I have a lot of questions about the ending.
Mm-hmm.
Because, okay, so like there's this, their daughter has trouble sleeping anyway. And then they move into a haunted house. And he's like, well, it's her night terrors. Because she keeps wanting to sleep with them.
Mm-hmm.
It's her night terrors. It's her night. No, she lives in a fucking haunted house, George. And so he runs to the pharmacy to get this prescription filled that is for his daughter's night terrors that this doctor prescribed, which the husband and wife have been arguing over. You know, the wife's like, no, I don't want to drug her. And the husband's like, she needs to sleep. We need to sleep. I want to sleep in the bed with my wife. So he fills it. And then we find out that he's somehow slipped it into these protein drinks that the wife is supposed to be drinking, that Catherine's supposed to be drinking. Because nobody really knows that she's anorexic except George. But the doctor has told her to start drinking these protein drinks. And somehow he gets like this drug into the protein drink. I don't know how.
Because, like I said, you swear that you heard her pop the can.
I swear I heard her pop the can. I heard that, that sound of a can opening. So unless he like wiped it around the rim.
Could have.
Where it would get into her
as much
system
as
that way.
Well, as much as he has like covered his ass, covered his lines up.
Yeah.
He's capable of doing
anything. But, you see her, and I gotta say the cinematography is excellent because, like, her whole struggle to fight against the effects of the drug, to get to her daughter, is the way that they shoot that is just it really plays with your brain. It's just really awesome, kind of showing it from her viewpoint, and you finally actually see the ghost, and so you think, yay, the ghost is going to help her, and it's like, no.
Well, we don't want to give away too much because we want, if you're going to watch this, if you like what we're talking about and you want to see the movie for yourself, that ending, you really have to, because Sarah and I have been discussing this ending to this movie. It's like, well, does it mean this or does it mean that? Was it this? Is it that? Because some things make sense and some things like, I'm not exactly sure if that's what they're trying to do.
End,
so yeah.
Pay attention to the imagery.
Yeah.
The imagery.
Imagery
at the end. But it leaves questions open. It's like, so is it over? Is the house like safe now, or is it going to move on to
another family? Yeah, you don't know.
You don't know. It just leaves it like really wide open. I guess I should read the book. Maybe the book answers.
It could.
The question. I don't know, but the way it ends, you're just like,
yeah.
Do they need to just burn the house to the ground?
Well, one thing too is like there's some movies that they just attribute that to crappy writing, but I think this one was done on purpose, and I think they did it well.
I think you're supposed to question. I really think because there's a lot of imagery in there that you're just like not for sure what's happening, and you're like, does it mean this or does it mean this? Does it mean, And like the sheriff, played by Michael O'Keefe, he knows what's up. He knows, he's like, I can't prove it, but I know what has happened.
Exactly. So you're not exactly sure if he gets away with the final thing, the husband, if he gets away with the final things that happen, or is he going to get his just due?
Yeah.
You don't know.
You don't, I mean, because the way it ends, okay, spoiler alert, Justine comes out of the coma.
And so she is going to call him on bullshit.
And I mean, it ends with the sheriff talking to her. So you know that they're at least going to get job. They're at least going to get George for the attempted murder of Justine. I mean, she's there. She's like, here's what happened. I know it was him. Yeah. I can, I know in my heart. And here's what I know. Here's the things that I know.
Yeah.
Which would have led to this, which would have led to this, which would have led to this. So it's like.
Yeah, so he knows he's screwed, but you don't know exactly.
You don't know spirit-wise
what's going to happen in that percent.
Yeah, and you don't know spirit-wise. I mean, is it done? Are the spirits done?
Exactly.
Or is it just moving on to the next and the next and the next?
So you don't know whether
you don't
or not the
know.
house
I mean,
is
it's
going
like,
to
is
suck
this
more
house
people
just
in,
is this just a cursed house that needs burned to the ground? Or did somehow George and Catherine like free everybody?
Yeah, exactly. They kind of left that open.
You know, because there's a lot of stuff that happens there at the end that you're just like, you know.
Yeah. Because it's like, is the wife now trapped in the house? Are they free?
Yeah,
you have
don't
no idea.
know. But like I said, it's very psychological.
Yes.
And, you know, you have to pay attention to those little...
Exactly. If you're, like I said, if you watch it the first time and you like it, definitely watch it the second time to pick up on little things that you missed.
Yeah, don't be messing around on your phone. Guilty. Not even gonna lie. I'm guilty of that. Pay attention. It's one of those movies that you need to pay attention to those little details.
Yeah, they did a very good job doing that.
And it's like going through the second time watching it, then you're like, you know... yeah, and then, you know, it's like the younger brother comes to babysit the daughter, and then you're just like, oh. And then you're like, when he gets ready to leave, you're like, go upstairs! Just go upstairs! Just go upstairs! And he doesn't. He just leaves. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff that you're just like, it clicks. It makes sense.
Yeah.
So I'm saying if you like slow burn...
Oh, yeah, it's definitely...
Definitely slow burn.
And very detailed.
Very detailed, psychological. The imagery is just gorgeous in this. And
they did a good job with the photography.
Yeah, they did. You have to pay attention to it. You have to, you know...
Like they did a great job with the... to make it look like an adaptation of a novel.
Yeah.
They did a good job. It's like classic Stephen King-esque.
I could see, although Stephen King would have had a little more gore.
Well, of course.
This is not. I mean,
it's not a gore thing, but I'm just saying, like the setting and the photography was very.
There's only like one scene that you could even call gorish, but even then, the angle that it's shot at, you know, it's not. If you're kind of adverse to gore, because there are some people out there that are. I think you would be okay because there's just the one scene with blood involved that really you don't see a lot. You don't really see a lot. But you know what's going on.
Yeah.
You definitely know what's going on.
Okay, so you would give this definitely 8 out of 11, 9 out of 11?
I would give this this is a solid 2 thumbs up. I loved it.
Yeah. Same here.
You know, like I said, it's more of a psychological thriller than a horror. It could not really be, to me, labeled horror, but it does have that supernatural element to it
it does have that female influence as well.
It does, because I mean, like I said, normally, you know, guy moves his family into a haunted house and the wife is all like shrill and we need to move out of this house because it's haunted, you know, and the husband is like, whatever. And I mean, in this case, the husband is like, whatever, we're fine. But the wife is like, you know, instead of we need to move, she's like, I need to find out. I need to study. I need to research. I need to figure out what's going on.
Exactly.
It's not,
very,
I
very
want to move out of this house. Yeah. It's this wife is, I want to get to the bottom of it. I want to figure out who's haunting my house. Maybe I can help them move on. Maybe I can, you know.
Very different. It's a different approach.
So she takes a very, I think, like cerebral.
Yes, I would say
approach rather than an emotional approach.
Well, it's more of a lack of a better word, spiritual approach.
Yeah, I mean, she's more into like, I just want to know what's going on.
Exactly.
I want to find out who it is and why and the whole nine. And, you know, she thinks she's discovered it. And then, you know, we discover that she's wrong, but kind of right. Because you have to watch it.
Yeah. Anyway, yes, it's about time for us to get off of here. But again, 2 thumbs up. Watch the show.
Yeah.
And things heard and seen. And if you're going to listen to this, we're going to be on Anchor. Give us a follow there, or Spotify, and we're going to be putting this up on YouTube with pictures of people that we're talking about, in case you don't know what we're talking about, on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And be sure to like and subscribe. Again, Drunken Housewife Review with
margaritas. With me,
the Drunken Housewife.
The Drunken Housewife.
Sarah Kennedy, and me, Ian Kennedy, the host and husband. Hope you guys have a good day.
Bye.